Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our tutorial. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful Christmas break. Mine was pretty good. When we left off, we were doing skin weights, and now we are back and ready to tackle some animation. So now that our character has been properly skin weighted, and he flexes and bends the way that we want him to do, it's time to start working on a few things to get him into the game engine so that he can actually play him and he feels like a character. First thing we're going to tackle today is going to be the walk cycle. Now, walk cycle is pretty simple, and to show you what we're going to be doing, we're going to hop over to the browser, and this is just a quick search on Google so you can see. This is a basic walk cycle setup, and we have several key positions or keyframes that we're going to be trying to emulate. So the first one here in line, this is our stride or our step. You can see that we have a contact position where the foot's down on the back, and then this is the right side of the character here, and you can see this part that's kind of in shadow. This is the left side of the character. So we have the right foot down, and then the left heel is down. We also have the whenever the left foot is forward, the right arm should be forward, and whenever the right foot is back, the left arm should be back, and you can see that illustrated here. From our stride, we have our squish or our recoil. This is where the foot, like right here, we're just making contact. This is where the weight of the body has shifted to the foot, and we're taking the back foot off the ground. And you can see there's kind of an oomph. He kind of drops down a little bit. Weight carries forward. You can see this arm kind of swings back more. This arm's kind of punching forward, kind of carrying the upper torso. And then we're into this pose here. This is our passing frame, where our back leg passes over the front leg, and we have our stretching frame. So we're actually now switching off. You can see the back leg is now on the ground, and it is pushing us forward, and we are reaching out with this with our front leg here. You can see our hand positions as well, and then right here, this frame you can see is the same as this frame. The difference is in this one, the right leg has the heel down, and then the back leg is the left leg. This one, the right leg is the back leg, and the left leg is the front leg. Okay, so that's a key difference. They are the same pose, but of the different side. And then, of course, we have so it's our stride and then our squish, and these are the reverse of these two. Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle that. I'm going to set my character up in a side view just because it's easier to work from. Bring up the color, and I do want to see my joints, so I'm going to go up to shading and come down to X-ray joints. Here's my character, and just following this particular pattern here. Now you don't have to follow this to the T, but it does help. I'm going to go ahead and do with my, let's see, this one's got the right leg back, left leg forward. So I'm going to do that here just to emulate the pose. So this, on my character, is actually his left side, and this is his right side. So I'm going to get wireframe on, oh, there we go, X-ray joints on. I'm going to take that leg, and this one is going to be forward, so put in that position forward. And then my back leg, I'm going to swing that rearward. Okay. Now you can see as I do this, we're no longer touching the ground, so we're going to have to actually bring the character to the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Grab his hip, and I'm going to drop it to the ground. So translate that down, just like that. I'm going to get my arms into position. So if the left leg is forward, that means the left arm is going to be back. So I'm going to take the left arm, I will rotate it down because it's kind of out from the body, and then I will rotate it back. And then opposite for this arm, go ahead and rotate this down, and this one's going to rotate forward, so like that. Now there's a little bit more that goes on here with rotation of the hips and all that, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. So since we have this set up, it's time to actually keyframe. So you can see on my timeline here, there are no frames set, and we're actually on frame 1. That's what we want to be on. This is where we're going to start. I'm also going to adjust my timeline to the correct length. So I'm going to come down here where it says 200. I'm going to change that to 24. I'm going to make this a 1 second walk cycle. Usually a walk cycle is between 1.5 to 2 seconds. I think 24. Let's do 36 frames. Let's do 36 frames. That should be good enough. And now I want to key all of these positions. So you can see that I don't have an animation rig attached to this character. I'm just doing FK directly from the joints. So FK is just forward kinetics. That means I'm rotating the joints and it's rotating the child. And that's how we're going to continue on from here. Let's go ahead and keyframe everything. Select all joints. So we're going to go to select, come down to all by type, and then joints. If you remember from the previous video, you can't just select the pelvis and assume that you have all the joints. You only have one joint by doing that. So that's one joint, that's one joint, that's one joint. So to get all of them, you either have to manually click them all, or you can use this wonderful select tool, all by type, and then joints. Okay, so I have all of him, and then I'm going to key everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and press the S key, and that's going to key every position. I'm going to go all the way over to frame 36. This is the last frame of my animation. I'm also going to press the S key to key that as well. Now the reason I'm keying in position 1 and position 36 in the same pose is if you look at our animation, once I get from, I start here, this is frame 1, and then when I get all the way across to here, this is actually half of a walk cycle. Okay, so from getting from here to there is 1/2 of a cycle. Getting from this position back to this position where the right leg is back and the left leg is forward requires another round, another set of poses, and then it'll switch back. So what I'm doing is I'm presetting that. I'm making sure that I'm back to this position at the end of the animation. We're actually going to have right around frame 18 is where we're going to switch. Frame 18-ish will be this pose, and then frame 36 will be back here again. If that's confusing, don't worry, we'll catch that up. So with those positions keyed, I am going to go right to the middle here, right around frame 18, and you can see I have frame 18 selected. And now what I want to do is the opposite pose. Okay, so I'm going to select my left hip, and I'm going to look at the only part that really matters. So in our case, I did hit the S key. The S key keys everything, but the only thing I really care about in this particular instance for my hip is actually the rotation. You can see we have a 0 rotation here, a 0 rotation there, and my Y rotation has been rotated this value. You can see that, 27.893. So that's how much forward it's been rotated, right? I'm going to take this value, I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to bring up Notepad. So I'm going to paste in the previous number. This is for this leg here. And then this one, I'm going to copy this, Control C. Paste that in. So I have them both. So I'm going to switch off. This is this position. I'm going to paste that in. And this one is the other leg. Paste that in. Okay, so those have switched. And you can see that a key did appear down here. Now, if you didn't have a key appear, go ahead and press the S key, and that'll key all. If you come over to the right, you see right here where it says, right next to no character set, there's this little plus icon with a little swirly like symbol. This is called auto key. Auto key will automatically set keys for you once a value has changed. It only works after you set the first value. Just keep that in mind. So I'm going to make sure auto key is on. So now every time I set a value, it will automatically place a key in. I'm going to go up to this arm here, and I'm going to copy both the rotation Y and Z because I had to rotate the arm down and then back. So my Y rotation for the arm, go ahead and copy that in. And I'll just make a spot, so that'll be my Y rotation. This will be my Z rotation. Then I'll go to the next arm. Grab that one. Copy that arm's Y rotation. And then I'll copy that arm's Z location, or rotation. Okay, and you can see they're not too far off from each other, but there is a negative value versus a positive value. One just happens to be, the negative is forward in this case, and positive is backward. Okay, so this arm, let's see what values I currently have. So this arm is 45 and 39, so I need to do this setup in here. So that one goes here. That'll push it back. And then this value, I'll go down to here, and I'll push that back. You can see that shot out the wrong direction. I'm just going to take the negative off. There we go. And you can see as I'm updating these values, they're turning red because they're being set. You can see the things that we didn't worry about are still pink. That means they're not set, which isn't a big deal. You just want to make sure that if you need them, that you set them. Okay, so rotations are good on that arm. I'm going to take this arm. This arm currently has 43.9 and minus 38, which is what I have here. So I'm going to put the next value, and I'm going to put this 45 right there. That'll push it forward. And I'll grab that 39. I'll plug that in. You can see that popped out. I'm going to go ahead and make that a negative 39. And that'll pop it back down. So now I've mirrored the pose. Now this is a bit too precise. People don't actually look the same from one step to the next. We have slightly different changes from one stride to the next, but this will work for our purpose. Now with these keys set, I'm going to go ahead and drag, and you can see very simply I have a simplified walk cycle. Now this is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, we don't just swing our legs back and forth. A lot of other things happen, such as the knees will bend, the elbows will bend, the hips will turn, and so on. So we're going to go ahead and do those next. Okay, so now I have the next frame. So you can see in our animation, we have set this frame. This is our stride. Then we set our other stride. And then we went back and we set this stride, right? So here's our first stride, and we get through our passing frames around here somewhere. This is our stride for the other side. And this is our passing frame somewhere in here, and then our stride to the other side. So I'm going to go to the next part, which is going to be my passing frame. That's the next primary pose. My passing frame appears to be right around frame 9. Okay. So right at frame 9, what do I need? Well, if I look at my demonstration here, one foot is down and then one knee is bent. So which foot's on the ground? It looks like the left leg is on the ground and then the right knee is bent. So let's go back to mine. So my left leg is on the ground. And if you're not sure, you can always watch. You can see the left leg is maintaining contact as it's coming down, and the right leg is actually swinging forward. So on frame 9, I'm going to leave my left leg as is. I'm going to take my right hip. I'm going to rotate that forward a little bit more. And I'm going to take my knee. I'm going to rotate that back a little bit more. Just like that. So now it looks like he's taking a step. And I'm actually going to take this down just a tad. Okay. So as we start from here, you can see, and actually I'll turn this way, you can see the knee starts to bend. Here's our pass. And then as we get here, the knee starts to straighten out. Okay. But as we get down to this point, you can see the knee doesn't finish. The reason the knee doesn't finish actually has to do with this position here. So we keyframed, and you can see that we keyed, if I select the knee is keyed at 0 for rotation X, Y, and Z. When I get to frame 9, I have changed the value of Y, right? And then when I get to frame 18, you can see that the value of Y has not been keyed. It should be keyed to the value of 0. If we go back down to here, you can see that Y at its original position should be 0. So at its forward position, when we're stepping down, should probably be at its max as well. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate forward. And then I'm going to type 0 in here. And there we go. So now this one's going to swing and then step. Swing, step. I'm going to do that for this half. So somewhere in the middle, looks like frame 27 is going to be my passing frame. I'm going to select the knee here, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other leg. So I'm going to come back to 9. You can see all 3 of these change, so I'm going to copy this into my notepad. I don't need these values anymore, so go ahead and just nuke those. There's the X, the Y, and the Z. I'm going to grab this knee, go over to frame 27. I'll start at the hip, so I need to key the hip into position. So that's going to be this. The next one, minus 13. Pushes the hip forward just a little bit. And then lastly, this minus 6. Now that minus 6 pushes the leg too far in, so I'm going to make that a positive 6. So that one actually came out too far, so I'm not going to use that value. I'm just going to push this in to where I think it's good. Which is no big deal because not every side is equal. So that's fine. That'll look more organic. And now we have to get the knee into position. So I'm going to take this knee at frame 9. We changed it to a value of 77 point that. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that value. I don't need Notepad for this. I'm just going to go over to frame 27, grab my left knee, and paste it into the Y value. There we go. So as I come through, I'm taking that stride, I'm getting to frame 18, and you can see at frame 18 we have an issue. This leg should be down at frame 18, so let's go ahead and make sure that at frame 18 we key that knee to 0. And then we'll continue through like that. Now if I actually play this, you can see it running, or see it walking, I should say. So now it's very good, since we have a basic walk cycle, to take a look at it from the front, and you can see, remember how I mentioned this leg was too far out when I copied the value over? And you can actually see that here. This leg is actually swinging, the right leg is swinging too far out as it is taking a step forward. So I'm going to stop the animation. Let's go to frame 9, grab my hip, and you can see how its Z value has been rotated to this minus 6. I'm going to actually copy from frame 27 the Z value. Go back to frame 9, and I will look for my right hip. There it is. And I will just go ahead and paste that value in. And I'll go ahead and watch it again. Not too bad. Got a little bit of a butt sway going on there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop that. Now that I have the legs kind of dialed in, I'm going to go ahead and do the arms. Now this is a very simple character, so I don't have to spend too much time on these. Let's go and do the arm position. So the arm, when it is back, it probably should be swinging all the way. And when it's forward, it's probably going to be swinging all the way. But on the passing frame, one of these arms needs to bend, and one needs to bend forward. So let's take a look. This arm's back. As we come down, probably around frame 6-ish, that's when the weight of the arm is going to catch. I'm going to take the elbow. I'm actually just going to keyframe right here. So I'm going to say bend that forward just a little bit. I'll go back to here. That should be 0. Coming through. And then striding to position 9. That's fine. Getting to frame 18. That should go back to 0. Now I'm only worrying about this arm at this particular moment. So forward, you can see as the weight of the arm is catching up, you can see I'm kind of pulling the arm forward. And now, since now we have a pendulum effect, it's pulled forward, gravity lets it swing down, momentum carries it forward, and then it relaxes, and we got that. So let's go ahead and do the other arm. So go ahead and copy this value. I'm going to go over to the other elbow. And let's see. We're not just going to paste it in because this arm behaves slightly different, because this arm is in the forward position, right? So now this arm actually has to swing back. So heading toward frame 6, we're at the edge of our pendulum, we're swinging back, gravity is starting to take over, so the arm will probably bend slightly forward, just a little bit as gravity takes it. Gravity's taking it, getting past frame 9, and then toward frame 18. And then here at frame 18, let's check what this rotation value is at frame 0. So that should be 0, right? So then this one, so our right arm at frame 18 should push back to 0 because the gravity, the momentum's already carried through. So now the hand part of the arm is swinging backward. And if I run this just a little bit, you can see that arm's carrying from gravity and swinging back. I'm going to head toward, let's see, frame 23 looks to be about the right spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 frame 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 23, yep, so it's about 6 over. Okay, so I'm going to go back to frame 6. I'm going to copy the elbow position of my left arm. Select my right elbow. Come over to frame 23. So now we have the opposite effect. This arm needs to swing forward. I'm going to paste in for the Y value that number. You can see we've got that matching. So now as we're from here to here, we have that pull, which is nice. And then as we get through frame 27, it's going to carry up. And it should 0 off right here. So all the way through, down, back, forward, up. Close enough for government work. Let's go ahead, go back to frame 6. I'm going to copy the elbow rotation for frame 6 on the right arm. And then I'm going to go to frame 23. And I'm going to paste in the elbow rotation on frame 23. So this is where this arm has reached the pinnacle of its bend, or so it's swung forward. Now gravity is going to take over and it's going to bend as it reaches frame 23. Now we'll paste that value in. And there we go. So as it's coming down, you can see it's catching from gravity, swinging back. And now if we watch this run, you can see It looks like there's some weight to his stride. He's pulling himself and kicking off. Okay. Make sure that you save your work because Maya does like to crash. So I'll say simple character. And this one's going to be walk cycle. So I'll say walk cycle. Now, of course, we're not done. This is just close enough to get our arm movement. But not just our arms move when we're walking. Our hips also move, our height changes, and our shoulders and our neck will move depending on our body position. So I'm going to go and do the height part first. I'm going to take the hips here. If I go to a side view, you'll see what I'm talking about. If I scrub this through, you can see as the legs come down and they straighten out, approaching frame 9 to that passing frame, we actually sink into the ground there. But we don't want to sink into the ground. We want to, of course, come out of the ground. So with my with the pelvis selected, go ahead and select that. Get your move tool. At frame 9, I'm going to go ahead and bring him up to the ground. So up, and I'll just line him up with the ground, just kind of eyeball it. There we are. So from here, you can see we're lifting, right? And now, as we approach frame 18, we're floating again. Well, we don't want to end up floating. We want to go back down so these touch the ground. So I'm going to come over to frame 1, and you can see my translation value right here. Now, I could copy and paste this, but I'm just going to copy and paste the frame. So I'm going to right-click, copy, come over to frame 18. Since I'm only pasting in the hip value, it won't matter, so I'll just say paste and paste. You can see the hip drops in. So we're coming up, coming down. And then toward frame 27, again, we're sunk into the ground. We want to be back up. So I'm going to come over to frame 9. I'm going to copy the hip position, or sorry, the pelvis position. So I'm going to right-click, copy. Frame 27, I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And then as we approach our last frame, we're on the ground, so we're good. And if we walk, you can kind of see as we step, we are, of course, on the ground, so our body lifts up, comes down, up, down. So we have a visual stride. So there's our height. Now it's a matter of adjusting our hip rotation. So as we're walking, one hip is forward, one hip is back. For this to actually work, our pelvis has to shift and turn. So as this character takes a step, the pelvis should rotate with this hip backward and this hip forward. So on frame 1, I'm going to bring up my rotation tool. And I'm just going to very, very slightly, and you can check the rotation value here, it's currently 0. I'm going to rotate just a little bit to there. And as we step to this position, this should be the opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my position. Again, I can really just copy and paste, so I'm going to copy. I'm going to come into position 18. I'm only pasting the pelvis, so paste. And this needs to be a negative, so I'll change, or sorry, it needs to be a positive. Go ahead and change that sign. And then coming through to this position, go ahead and paste that in. And this one's fine being negative because it's the same. So you can see I'm rotating, step, rotating, step. So now we have some swing in our hip. If you watch them from behind, you can see that swing in the hip there. Now this is overly exaggerated, but you can adjust it as you need. Now kind of the same deal with the shoulders. As this upper part swings forward, the upper part in the shoulders rotates forward. So I'm going to take, and you can kind of pick which joint you want, but I'm going to actually take this upper like spine 3 position, and I'm going to rotate that. So I'm going to go up frame 1, and I'm going to very, very gingerly rotate that. And I'm really just going to rotate it to a position to where the eyes look like they're pointing forward. And that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to get, okay, so I'll go ahead and copy and paste. So I'm going to copy it. Let's go all the way through to 18. And I will paste on 18. Now we need the opposite. So this needs to be -4. And then I'm going to come all the way through frame 36, and I will paste that in. So now we have some counter rotation to our shoulders. I'm not going to do anything to the head. I think this is close enough for what we need, but if you needed animation on the head, you're more than welcome to. It's just important that as your character's walking, we generally look where we're walking, so if he were looking off to the side or something like that, you'd want to key the head. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick play so I can watch this from various angles. It's always good to watch your animations kind of go through. What I am going to do is remove all the static channels. So you can see this is what's been changed. If I go to a frame, from here to here, you can see the only thing that's changing is this. These are all keyed. Only thing changing here is that. These are all keyed, right? So I'm going to go up to select. I'm going to do all by type. I'll do joints. I'm going to go to edit and then delete by type. I'm going to come down to static channels. I'm going to go ahead and hit click on that. And you're going to see all the channels that don't change disappear. So now our animation's a lot cleaner. And you only have to worry about what's actually changing per frame, right? Okay. With that good and clean, we're going to save this. And I will see you guys in the next video.